everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi. Today's video is going to be about all the books that I read in January. Last month in December, if you guys watched, I did a TBR video, and I think I read 2 books that were on my TBR. And my plan this whole year was to do TBR videos, but I think I'm going to do monthly wrap-ups instead, just because I don't like being told what to read. I'm such like a mood reader. Like, I'll go on TikTok and see a book and I'm like, that looks good, like I want to read it. And then if I have a whole pile of TBRs that I'm not reading, I'm just putting other books in front of it. So I figured I'm just going to do a monthly wrap-up every month and tell you guys about the books I read. That way you guys still know what books I'm reading, and plus I've already read them so I can kind of talk about them more. If you watched when I rearranged my bookshelf, I talked about how I got a Kindle. And so all the books that I read this month, I read them all on my Kindle, and they all are on Kindle Unlimited. Oh my god, I just said Kindle so many times in a row. So I have my computer open with my Goodreads, and we're just going to go over all the books. I will link my Goodreads down below too, so if you want to go follow me on there, you definitely can. The first book that I read this year was Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight. I rated this one 4 stars. This was my first dark romance that I've ever read. It's also a reverse harem, I don't know how you say it. But basically it means the girl is with multiple guys in the book. She doesn't just choose one, she's just with them all. And it was okay. It was definitely nothing like I've ever read before. Basically it's about this girl named Roxy. Her dad owes these guys some money. They're pretty rich, kind of big. I don't know if they're like in the mob or mafia. I don't know. They do some questionable things. But he basically sells them her. He's like, I don't have any money to give you, so here's my daughter. They go pick her up. She moves into their apartment, and she's a very strong-willed person. Like, she has backbone. She doesn't back down. And they all just kind of start to like her. She starts to like them. There is violence in there. There is a lot of sexual things happening. So if you don't like reading about that stuff, I would not recommend this book. I think the only reason I rated it 4 stars is because I should talk about my rating process. I kind of rate things different. I give them 5 stars if I would definitely read it again. I would rate it 4 stars if I liked it, probably will never read it again. And 3 if I just didn't like it and would never read it again. I'm probably going to sell the book because I don't like it. I would probably never give something 2 or 1 stars just because I am not the type of person. I know that a book is someone's like baby, like they put their whole life into it, and I don't want to give it a bad review. I don't know, I just would feel bad about that. So that's how I rate books. Probably different than anyone else would ever rate a book, but that's what I do. So yeah, I rated that one 4 stars. Probably won't ever read that one again, but it was good. The next book that I read is The Truth About Heartbreak by B. Celeste. This one I rated 4 stars. It is in a series. The next one is The Truth About Tomorrow, and then the next one is The Truth About Us. So in The Truth About Heartbreak, River, she is adopted by a wealthy family. She's got an older brother named Oliver. I think he's 2 or 3 years older than her. And then Oliver has a best friend named Everett. She's very shy. She was very abused in her younger life. And so she has a hard time kind of connecting with males just because of that abuse. She ends up really clicking with Oliver and Everett. It flashes back and forth from when she was adopted, when she was in high school, to 10 years later. And it just goes about her and Everett's relationship. In the next book, if I talk about it, it's going to be spoilers. I'm just going to say it's an age gap between a girl who's in, I'm pretty sure she's in high school. I think she's like 16 or 17. And Oliver, River's older brother. And then in The Truth About Us, the 3rd book, it's a shorter book. I think it's like only 100 and some pages. It is just a continuation on of Oliver and his girl, and then just in the future. Next up, I read the Stay With Me series. This is by Nicole. I don't even know how to say her last name, so I'm not going to say it. The book's on the screen. You can see it right there. This one I rated 5 stars. There is 3 books in the series. I rated them all 5 stars. I ordered them from Barnes & Noble. I think the covers are so pretty and the books were so good. This is one of the first book series that I've read that's like made me feel something. Besides the After series, when I read that, I was sad, I was happy, I was embarrassed for the characters. Like, I felt every emotion, and this book is literally one of the first ones that has made me feel things besides the After series. So this one is about Mia and Ollie. Mia is a very troubled girl, and her parents are just fed up with her. So they send her away to this kind of like mental institution, college, boarding school type of thing. And that's where she meets Oliver. He's also in there. And so they both have mental health problems. And then their story just goes on from there. There's murders, there's kidnapping. It has so much in it and it's so good. So I definitely recommend that. And the other 2 books in this series is Even When I'm Gone and Now Open Your Eyes. And this book was so good. I can't wait to get an actual paperback form so I can reread it. Oh, so excited. It's so good. And I'm looking on here now on my Goodreads, and it doesn't even have that many like reads. Like, people need to read this book. It's so good. That's probably like one of my favorite books of the month. Then after that, I read Voyeur by Fiona Cole. This is in a whole series. I stopped after the first book though because I found another book on TikTok that I wanted to read, and so I just didn't even continue on. But I do plan to continue on with the series. This one I gave 4 stars. Voyeur is kind of like a sex club where they act out live porn. So you go in, there's actual people, you say what you want to see, and people perform it for you. And this girl, her parents spent her tuition money, and so she has to get a job. And her best friend's uncle owns the club Voyeur, and so she's like, go work there. So she goes and works there. This one guy in particular starts to really like her. He always requests her. Well, she walks in on the first day of school and he's her teacher. And yeah, it just goes on from there. Obviously, he gets mad that she's working there. She's mad that he goes there. He's got a lot of past trauma that she helps him through. And yeah, so that one's really good. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. It was okay. I probably wouldn't read it again. It's not my favorite, but it was good. Then I discovered T.L. Swan, and oh my god, I don't know why I haven't read anything from her earlier. That's all I've been reading for the past week is books by her, and I'm almost out of them, and I'm sad. The first one I read by her was The Stopover, and oh, this was so good. Every single book that I read of hers, I give 5 stars. My battery's flashing. I'm gonna change my battery and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry if the camera angle changed a little bit. Like I said, my battery died, so I had to take my camera off my tripod and put a new battery in. The Stopover is with Emily and Jameson Miles, part of the series called the Mile High Club. She just finished writing the 3rd book in the series, actually. Super excited for that. But The Stopover, this girl named Emily, she's in the airport. This guy's acting very crazy in front of her, causing a scene, and he ends up kicking her luggage. And the airport, the flight company, whatever, feels super bad. So they upgrade her to a 1st class seat. And guess who she sits next to? Jameson. So she gets on the plane, they kind of start talking. There's bad weather, and so they have to stop for a layover, and they just hook up the whole entire night. And then he gets up and leaves in the morning, doesn't ask for her phone number. She doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know who she is, and they just go on with their lives. Well, a year later, she moves to New York City, gets a job, she shows up, and then she has to get a tour, and she goes to the top floor to meet her boss, and guess who her boss is? Mr. Miles. So then he becomes like obsessed with her. He wants to date her. She's like, I can't do it, like, you're my boss, my job's more important, I wanted this job for forever and I can't risk that with you. And he like promises her like nothing's gonna happen to your job, it's fine. He comes with a lot of baggage too. He's dated some very high-class famous people, and yeah, it was super good. I loved it. Very drama-like, very good. Next book in the series is The Takeover, and this is with Claire and Tristan. Tristan is Jameson's brother. He's got 4 brothers. Like I said, she just finished writing the 3rd book on Elliot, and so I'm excited for that to come out. So Claire runs this company, Anderson Media, I think is what it's called. Her husband had passed away, and it was his company, and she's trying to keep it running and good so their 3 sons can take it over one day, and it's really not doing too good. And Tristan, part of his job is to take companies that aren't doing too good and like buy them and fix them and resell them and stuff. And so he's trying to get Claire's business, and Claire is just like, no, I'm not interested in it. Like, this is going to my boys, this is my company, like, you can't buy it from me. And so that was how they met. Well, her assistant is like, you need to relax, Claire, like, you're in too much stress, go on this conference. So she leaves the country. I can't remember where she goes. She goes somewhere though. And she's at this conference to like find herself, relax. And guess who the guest speaker is? Tristan. Well, they end up hooking up and they go home. Awkward between them. He ends up going to her house, and this is like one of the funniest scenes I ever read, is when he like met her 3 kids. They hate him. Well, the youngest one likes him. The other 2 do not like him, and it kind of scares him away a little bit. And then he is trying to find new interns. Well, one of Claire's sons, Fletcher, ends up coming in and he gives him the job. Kim and Claire end up having some troubles just because he wants to step in and be these kids' dad, and she's just can't wrap her head around that. It's hard for her, which I understand why it's hard. Super good. 5 stars. Definitely recommend any of T.L. Swan's book. They're all so good. Then after that one, I read Dr. Stanton. I see on Goodreads it says #1. I don't know if there's #2. I'm gonna have to look into that. I didn't know. But this one is about a girl named Ashley. She's in Vegas for a bachelorette party, and this guy's flirting with her, and she's not having it. So she grabs the first guy next to her, and she's like, "This is my husband, like, get away." And then he plays with it. He's like, "Yeah, like, get away from my wife." They end up hooking up the whole night, and then she has to go home, so she leaves, and she does get her number. But that night he's in a casino, and he gets like kicked out of the casino, and he realizes once he's out, like, he doesn't have his phone, so he lost her number. And so for 5 years they just didn't even talk to each other or anything, because he lost her number and she didn't get his. Well, she is a med student, and she's in her final year, and she moves to California to do her like last year residency or interning, whatever you call it, I don't even know. And guess who the guy is? I swear in all these books I'm like, guess who is there, guess who it is. But Dr. Stanton, Cameron, is her like guy she has to follow around, like her boss or whatever. And so she's like, oh shit, like, he's here. And then he like talks to her, and she acts like she doesn't know who he is. She has a kid now too, and she's just like, it's not gonna work, I know it's not. He's trying to like win her back and stuff. He's been obsessed with her the past few years. And yeah, there's a lot of like drama, and there's a plot twist in here that I kind of saw coming but didn't. It was really good. Totally recommend. After this video I'm gonna check out what there's a second book because I want to read that. Then after that I read The Italian. This is my first like mafia, well actually not. I read The Kiss Thief last month. It's kind of mafia, like arranged marriage, but I feel like this one was like more mafia. Anyway, The Italian is about Olivia and Enrico, I think is how you say it. She goes on a vacation because she just needs to find herself. She needs to relax. And she meets this guy at a restaurant because she can't really interpret Italian too much, and he's like, oh, if you read the menu, like, we'll figure this out. They end up spending the weekend together, but she has another part of her trip that she has to go on, so she leaves, and she's like, will you pick me up? I'll be back in like 2 weeks. And he's like, yeah, of course. So she leaves, she goes on the trip, and then as she's gone that same exact day, he finds out that his father and his grandfather were killed in a car accident. More like murdered, but killed. Anyway, she like doesn't hear from him at all. She sends him messages, doesn't reply. She calls him, doesn't answer. She's so confused. So then once her trip is up, she comes back and she's at the airport. He said he'd pick her up. He's not there though. And as she's waiting to get her bag, she picks it up and security comes up and they're like, why? Like, we need to talk to you, come in here. And she ends up having all these drugs in her bag, and she's like, I didn't do this, like, these aren't my drugs, I don't know what's happening. So they take her to the police station, and Enrico's, or whatever his name is at the police station because he used to be a cop. And she's like, oh my god, like, help me. She's crying, and he comes in and he's just like pissed at her for no reason, and that's all she sees of him. And then the next day someone bails her out and they take her home on his private jet. And then I don't know how many years or months or whatever go by, but she's like a fashion designer. She's in that job industry. She applied for a position in New York, but she got the one in Italy instead, and she's like, okay, anyway, I'm gonna go. So she goes, and the whole thing is Enrico like brought her back because he couldn't stop thinking about her. But what Enrico didn't know is when his parents and grandparents died, they were in the mafia. They like run all of Italy, and so he's got that to deal with now, and he's like trying to deal with her and the mafia. And yeah, it's a messy situation. There's a lot of details in this book that I'm not going to talk about because it'll kind of ruin it. Yeah, super good. I'm definitely going to read more mafia romance now. 5 stars. Then I read the Mr. series, which is Mr. Masters and Mr. Spencer. But Mr. Masters, Brielle, she just needs something different. So she applies for a nanny position in the UK. She gets the job. It's with a widowed person with kids, and she's assuming it's a girl. Turns out when she gets to the airport, it's a guy, Mr. Masters, and they are both attracted to each other. He's like 38 and she's 24 or 26. I don't know. She's in her 20s. Anyway, he has 2 kids and they end up starting to like each other. It's a really good book. It's kind of a slow burn. Some of the stuff she did in it was so awkward though. Like she runs him over with a golf cart and she's like in his bathroom smelling his stuff and he like catches her. I don't know. I was like embarrassed for her in some parts of this book. So I'm like, oh girl, like why are you doing that to yourself? But it was super good. I liked it. I gave that one 5 stars too. And then my most recent read, which I actually finished this morning, was Mr. Spencer. That one is about Lady Charlotte and Spencer Jones. Spencer is Julian Masters' best friend. I should have said Julian's a judge and Spencer owns his own like steel company. They're at this wedding together and Spencer's like, who is that girl? And they're like, oh my god, she's like a lady of some place that I can't pronounce. Anyway, like she's way out of your league, like don't even try. And he's like, okay, like I'm taking that as a challenge. So he ends up going to talk to her, they kiss, and then that's kind of it. Her parents and her brother are super overprotective of her, and so they don't let her get too far. Her mom actually passed away and they think that it was like a plan to murder. Her family is very, very rich and wealthy. She's worth like $4 billion, which is crazy. And anyway, she has all these security around her in case someone tries to like kill her. So they can't really like do anything out in public because people would see them. So she leaves. Pretty sure he waits outside her work one day and she comes out and he's there and they go get dinner and then he takes her back to her house and she just tells him that she's like very inexperienced. And he kind of makes it seem that he's like, oh, kind of like scared of it, and so she kicks him out. He's really not scared of it. He's like just processing it. Anyway, she's like, I'm done with him, whatever. And then her friend comes and is like, you need to leave. Like, your dad and your overprotective brother are gone to the US for 6 weeks. Like, come to London with me and get a job, get a new name. Nobody's gonna know who you are. And just learn about yourself, have fun. So she moves to London. She got a job in a mail room and she changed her name to Lottie Preston. Well, she meets this girl in the mail room and she's like, oh my god, like I have a double date tonight, but the girl just canceled, like you need to come with me. So she's like, here to have fun, like let's go. So she gets there and her coworker Sarah, her date is Spencer and she's with some other guy. Anyway, they act like they don't know each other because he like looks at her and he's like, Lottie, like Charlotte. And he's like, hi Charlotte. And Sarah's like, no, her name's Lottie. Like what? He ends up leaving the date because he didn't want to stay there anyway. And he's like, come with me. And she's like, nope, I'm staying. So she stays. And then after that, he just tries to win her over. Like I said, her dad and her brother are so protective of her. Like she can't hardly do anything. And so it's fun seeing the ways they like go about it. And there's a lot of family drama. She also has a brother named William who has a kid with a girl named Penelope. She's got some drama around her in the book. It's really good. I really like it. One thing I like about her books is like they mention characters from other books. Like I'm pretty sure in this book they were at a dinner party and like Dr. Stanton was there. Or in the stopover they talk about what's his name? His last name's Fiera. I don't know, whatever. He's like their competition. And then in the Italian that was Enrico's cousin. And so like they're all like connected, which is really cool. That was all 16 books that I read this month. I'm excited to see how many books I read next month. Last year total I read 52 books, but I didn't start like heavily reading until like June, July-ish, and so that's only like half a year. And so 50 books half a year, that's pretty good. I did 50 again this year and then I just upped it to 100 because I'm like, I'm already close to halfway there. Like I'm definitely gonna go over 50, so I bumped it up to 100, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I said, my Goodreads will be linked down below, so if you want to follow along throughout the month to see what I read, definitely do that. I am going to be filming a reading vlog this coming week. I might start tomorrow, I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to be reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've heard a lot of good things, I've heard some bad things about it, so I'm excited to read it. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. If you want me to do any other book videos, definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, and give this video a thumbs up, and comment down below what books you are reading currently, or what your favorite book you've read this month, or just your favorite book that you think I should read. I would love to know. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.